morning everybody, this is Parn. Today we'll be discussing Fallout 4. This is episode 2. Our points of discussion today will be your basic recruitment, build mode in more detail, your basic duty assignments, your settler requirements, and basically everything to do with starting a basic settlement and making your settlers happy. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, the first thing on recruitment. Now, as previously discussed, when you first obtain or acquire a settlement like this, by you can either kill the original occupants or do a mission for them. Now if you did a mission for them, then those first occupants will become your first settlers, traders, and quest givers. Obviously if you want any more settlers, you'll have to basically invite them here using a radio recruitment beacon, which will be part of the discussion today on how to build that. Some of the missions, in-game missions and things obviously guide you a bit on these things, but we found them to be quite inadequate. That's why we're going to go into a bit more detail. You'll notice that my town is a bit built up already, so that will just make it easier for me to quickly take you through some of the steps. I'll just put down things anyways just to show you, but most of it's built up already. Okay. Anyways, on build mode, as previously discussed, the first time around you go to the workshop, you press E. Second time you can just be in the buildable area somewhere and you can just hold V. Now previously, as I said, this is the workshop. I'm just going to hold V, and that's your build mode. Now you'll see at the moment I've got 8 people here. My food is at 13, water at 16, and beds at 16. Okay, now those are the basics that your settlers will require. Excluding robots and settlers on supply convoys, everybody else will need food, water and beds. Happiness, as you can see up there, is an indicator of how you are faring in this regard. You don't just need to look there. You can also, normally as you walk through the settlement, the villagers will audibly complain, and also when you talk to the traders and you ask them how it's going, they will also tell you what the problems in the settlement are. Obviously when let's just start on at the beds. With regard to beds, those aren't just placed anywhere, they must be placed under cover. Food. Food you need to plant on dirt, and it's not just about planting it, you also need to assign a settler to work on these plants. Normally, as you walk through the Commonwealth, you'll get the seeds, the mud fruit and tattoo and things, so you put these plants down. If you have settlers that aren't assigned to duties, in other words they're standing idle, they will sometimes start working these food patches, or they will start salvaging, but only about 3 or 4 of them auto assign like this, so you must keep an eye on these things and make sure that you're not actually standing here with bushes that aren't being harvested. Okay, once they are being harvested, they'll start counting towards your food. As I said before, food has to be planted on dirt. You can't plant it on concrete, so in some areas you'll have difficulty putting down big plantations. Not all settlements have a lot of dirt. Water structures are similar. Some of the basic pumps need to be on dirt. Others, like this structure, need to be, like the water purifier, need to be put down in a water source. Now some settlements have water sources like this, others don't, so you won't always have the option to build a water purifier. Also, some of these things like the water purifiers and things, need power. You will normally see if you hover on them what they'll say. They'll say they require 2 power. Now that goes off the power generated amount. If you're generating like me 100 power, 2 of that power is now going towards this water purifier. Sometimes with lights you won't see a number, you'll just see the little like this. You'll just see the little indicator for power. That means it needs to be connected to power, but it doesn't actually use up a point of power. We'll talk about power, the structures and things in more detail in the next episode. In this one I'm just going to talk about how to get your settlers requirements met, and maybe just the basic first 2 defense towers. Okay, so also remember that you can build everything here: food, water, beds. Your happiness can be good, but you'll still not get any settlers joining you if you don't have your recruitment beacon set up. So the first structure we'll be building that requires power will be that. Now this place already has one. I'll just show you where on the menu to find it and its resources, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so if you're in your build mode, you'll go to the 4th option, which is power. Now you just literally just press down to go back to the highest category, like power. Then you go up to go in down 1 line. Then you get your generators, your connectors and switches, your lights, and then miscellaneous. Under miscellaneous, one of the first option will be the radio recruitment beacon. As you can see, it needs 2 circuitry, 2 crystal, 6 copper, 10 steel, 3 ceramics, 1 rubber. At the start of the game they will try and give you enough resources so you can at least build these things. Later on, as you start using more and more of this stuff, you may get to places where you actually won't be able to build your recruitment beacon. You'll have to gather resources first, especially with the copper that's being used in most of these circuitry structures and things. Copper later on, because it's used so often, you can run out quite quickly. Okay, this is the recruitment beacon. It needs to be placed on either the ground or some structure that doesn't have obstructions. These wires that you see here, these power wires, they are actually an obstruction to me building it here. Normally there's a certain amount of skill involved with putting down electric circuits and things, and knowing where they'll work and where they won't, but we'll discuss that all in next episodes, where we'll talk more about advanced circuitry and the like. Okay, I'm just going to press down for the moment. That will take this radio recruitment beacon that I have selected for building away. Okay, now here's my currently built one. As you can see, it requires 1 power. You can see it's wired here to a pylon, which in turn is wired to this generator here. It can be wired straight from here to the generator, but for structure's sake I like using these pylons, and also these pylons serve other purposes, but we'll get into that in more detail later in another episode. Okay, normally if you hover over the structure like the radio recruitment beacon, you will see the options on it is select, tab, scrap, wire for space for attaching a wire, and escape. E you will use if you want to pick this up and move it around or rotate it. If you have something in hand and you wish to rotate it, you just hold the right mouse button. That will rotate the structure around. Also, regarding scrapping, you can scrap this item, but you won't get all of its resources back, so I'd rather use the tab store option if you want to maybe use this again in this specific settlement. Then you will see this space attached wire. Now normally you will need to do that when you have your recruitment beacon and your generator not yet linked to each other. The way in which you will get the wire is you will hover over one of the two, you will press space, it will attach a wire. As you can see there, I've got it in my hand. You can then move that to the item. You will see it literally connects to that little tip there. Most of the electronic structures have that, so you can normally see quite clearly whether it's attached or not. If you try and wire this through an obstruction, it will go red. Same with structures being built and stuff, that shows you cannot. I would normally just press escape now to cancel this job. But we'll talk about wiring in more detail in another episode. Just know you need to have a generator built, and this, where the generator is concerned, it's also under the power options, but it's the first category there, generators. There are different tiers of it. The later tiers are normally stronger or better, it produces more, but you also have more difficult ingredients or materials required. Like for instance, this first level one produces 10 power, but it needs nuclear material because it's a nuclear power plant. Third one is different, it produces only 3, but it is a windmill generator. So yeah, if you don't have oil like the first two need again, I'm lying here, copper, you'll see there's a few resources that is different from this first small generator and the third generator, the last generator. The first one we will normally build, but in some cases you can also use the windmill generator if you wish. Okay, I would prefer to use the larger ones because then I can use them for more duties. But if you build one generator and it gets damaged during an attack, everything goes down, so keep that in mind as well. But we will talk more on defenses and things like that later on, and planning how to put your power lines down and stuff in the next episode. Okay, well, as you saw, the generator and the recruitment beacon, you also, when you exit build mode, you get the option to activate or deactivate this. Now it's turned off, so it won't call any more settlers to your neighborhood, and now you'll see it's turned on again as well. Okay, that is that for the recruitment beacon. On the assigning side, some commands are given in build mode, whilst others are given, outside of build mode. But regarding the supply convoys, assigning of duty, and moving settlers between your settlements, you need to do all of those things in build mode. So you need to hold in V again to go into build mode. Now, as you saw when I hovered on that recruitment beacon, you get options relating to the thing you're hovering on. If you hover on a structure or on a person, you get different options. Let's just find a person. Right, this is my living area. Most people come here to rest or sleep. Let's enter it and find one of our people here. Right. Now, as you can see, if I hover over this gentleman, he gives me command, move, or supply line. Now, command is the one you will use when you want to tell a settler to move to a certain point, or you want to assign him to anything, whether that's food, trading posts, or defense posts. You normally do it this way. You go E on him, it will go to go in this case. But if you go over a structure like a plantation, then you will see it actually changes to a sign instead. Be patient when you press E now to assign him here. It does take a while to assign in the game. Normally you will get a little pop-up message notifying you that the resource has been assigned. I'm not going to do it with that gentleman. He's actually one of the guards in town. As you can see, his bushes are taken care of already anyways. It's green on the person. There you have your settler working on his plantations. Okay, you would have also seen just now sorry, I should actually do it here. You will also see a move option there. Sometimes you cannot move a person. This is normally when it's a quest giver or like a child of the settlers. Then you can't move. Also, supply lines don't apply to some of them. If you do press move on a person that can be moved, then you will get the option of a little like a list of all your other settlements. Now this is a new game, so I only have the Red Rocket truck stop as well, so I have two settlements. Now if I press R on this gentleman for move and I choose the Red Rocket truck stop now, I will be telling this gentleman to move to that place, and he will no longer be living here or working here, and he will also no longer require food or water from here. He will obviously require those resources from that settlement then. Okay, we're not going to do that now. We'll tap on that. Supply lines, same story. If I go on him again, on the supply line, it will also show my settlements. The reason for this is you create a supply line between this settlement and that settlement, not between all your settlements. So you may want to decide how you're going to structure this. I normally have main settlements like this one, and say one central and say one in the south, and then I will link up these main ones to each other, and then I'll link up the other settlements around them to those settlements. The supply convoys share the junk stored in the settlements, which is used as building materials. They don't share anything else like weapons or apparel or anything like that. Only the junk is shared when you do a supply convoy between two areas. It is useful though. You will start at like a little settlement, normally with 1 or 2 people. Sending one of those on a supply convoy to one of your larger settlements enables you to immediately start building there, even though you may have otherwise been low on resources. I used this extensively, especially in the later stages of the game, where you enter an area and you don't even have oil or well, you may have steel, but oil and copper and things you may not have. Then you will send one of the settlers, and immediately you will exit your build mode, enter build mode again, and immediately all your resources will be there for building. And then obviously you can put recruitment towers down and actually get more civilians or settlers. So it's definitely worth the person you lose in the settlement to have the supply convoy set up. Okay, so also regarding what I said about transferal of settlements in the previous episode, if you have areas like, well, you can say that Red Rocket truck stop there, that area I don't normally build up. It's a very small place. It's almost next door to this sanctuary. So normally I prefer to have all my people here. So I normally won't even build a recruitment beacon there, and normally there aren't anybody there. So one can decide whether you wish to use that as an additional recruitment center. Same with the other settlements. If you think a settlement is worth less to you as a full-blown settlement, or you're one of those places that will just have one settlement, then you can still set up a recruitment beacon there to get more people, or you can just take the people that are there already and you can give them a move command to, say, another settlement like this one sanctuary, and then those people will move here. Obviously, when they do so, you will need to be ready for them with food, water, and bed requirements, to suit their needs as well. I tend to have about 30 beds and 30 food and 30 water in my bigger settlements, so that I can easily handle about 20 to 25 people in a settlement, doing obviously trading and all the other duties that the normal settlement requires. On the supply convoys, as I said, I would normally establish them between all my settlements. The supply convoys, as they move around through the Commonwealth, you will actually meet them on the road. You can equip them in the field if you stop them and you offer to trade with them, same as you would do with your settlers in town. They will give you the option to give them weapons and clothing and things right there in the field. Remember that if you do equip things like guns on them, it's normally better to equip a similar type of gun as which are currently using, like a .38 gun, because normally the bullets they have on them, or the gun they come equipped with, those bullets don't get used up, whereas if you give them any other gun, those bullets will get used up. Also, make it a habit of giving them at least one melee weapon. It does help in certain circumstances. I do like to equip all my people, because I feel that the supply convoys are kind of Commonwealth guards, and if they're well equipped, then they certainly keep the roads a bit cleaner as well. Okay, so that's all I can really say on supply convoys or on moving settlers. Assigning duties and things we will discuss in more detail again, obviously when we're discussing trading and things like that, which will be probably in the next episode. That is, I think, all we'll discuss today. I can just show you. Ignore all the circuitry, we'll talk about that later, but you will see here I've got a heavy machine gun turret here, and here's another one. These turrets, you can build them from the defense options on the build menu. They are the only two turrets that don't require power. They do require oil to build though. Oil and adhesive are two resources that you will need quite a bit of. Adhesive for modifying weapons, which is obviously going to be discussed in more detail in later episodes as well. Oil is used more for these machine gun turrets and the like. They don't use up this oil, it's just when you build them you need oil. Oil and adhesive are the two resources that you can actually craft at your crafting stations. But once again, all of crafting, modifying those things we'll discuss in follow-up episodes in more detail, so we're going to talk too much on that. These towers are going to probably be the mainstay of your city's defenses though, because even though the other powered ones are much more effective, or I feel they would be more effective due to the amount of damage they do and the amount of defense they add to your city or settlement, they do go down, and those basic heavy machine gun turrets don't. So that is quite a benefit in my mind. But defenses we'll discuss later in more detail. Okay, that's all for today, I think.
Oh, won't you stay for a while? I'll take you